In the first chapter of Mishle, the book of Proverbs, we learn about Yirat Hashem, fear of God. Towards the end of the chapter, it says, Tachat kisan da'at v'yirat Adonai lo vacharu, because they hated knowledge and did not choose fear of the Lord. At the beginning of the chapter, we also have knowledge as equated with fear of God. And this concept of Yirat Hashem has been an important one throughout Jewish history. Part of a healthy spiritual life is to have Yirat Hashem, fear of God. But that concept and really that language of fear of God is one which turns many contemporary Jews off. The idea that we should fear God, be afraid of God, is something which is troubling to a lot of people. Perhaps if we understood the concept a bit better, we would find a place for Yirat Hashem in our lives. And it really deserves an important place in the way we relate to God. Because even though there is a level of Yirat Hashem, fear of God, which our tradition speaks of as wrapped up in fear of punishment, which for some people can be problematic, there is what is called a higher fear. The higher fear of God is really wrapped up in a sense of God's presence in the world, a sense of awe. While the idea that we are rewarded and punished directly for our actions may be challenging for us theologically, this higher fear says that when we have a real sense of God's presence in the world, we want to do what's right. We want to fulfill the mitzvot. We want to do them not because we're worried that we'll be punished, but we know that this is what it means to live up to God's expectations of us. This idea of Yirat Hashem is something which propels us forward into a life full of doing the right thing. The other piece of this is that even though Yirat Hashem is an internal quality, there's a really beautiful, direct explanation of what Yirat Hashem might mean in our lived lives in the book of Exodus. Right near the beginning of the book of Exodus, Pharaoh will command the midwives to kill all of the newborn Israelite children, leaving he commands them to get rid of the Israelite boys and to leave the Israelite girls alive. And speaking about the midwives, the Torah says that they had fear of God, and they let the boys live. That is to say, it's not only acquiring a sense of God's presence in the world, but once you get that sense, it will, burst forth into our actions on a day-to-day basis, and sometimes when it is most challenging to do what is right. These midwives risk their lives in saving the lives of these Israelite boys. Why? Because they recognized that they were living in a world filled with God. It's not just about a spirituality which is practiced internally or privately. Yirat Hashem, fear of God, is about the way we practice our spiritual lives out in the world. And the midwives stand as a really beautiful example of what that might mean. In the meantime, the book of Proverbs wants us to have this sense of awe in all that we do, because we will be more open to receiving wisdom, which after all is what Mishle is trying to provide us. By having a sense of awe, we will be open to wisdom and will actually lead our lives in healthier and more productive ways and in better ways, just because we are recognizing God's presence in the world. This coming Shabbat, we will read Parshat Vayakhel, and it is also Shabbat Shkalim, one of the Shabbatot leading us into the Passover season. We begin that beginning this coming Shabbat, and I hope you will have an opportunity to be with us and to read Parshat Vayakhel. Hope you have a Shabbat Shalom.